today talk about the story and some stories within the field of psychology. You get to take notes today. If you're at home doing this, you don't have to, but if you want, you can take notes. Ready? We're going to do some true-false things using, you guys will take a little quiz today, certainly some notes. If you have questions about the class, I'll save them toward the end. And if you have specific things related to the functioning of this class, ask them then. Otherwise, throughout the day, just raise your hand as we go along and we'll talk about different things. We'll give you, by the end of the day, a definition of psychology, some key themes, and at the end, some course requirements. Does that sound good? Any questions right now as we get started? Anything? All right, here we go. We're going to talk about psychology. How many have had, ooh. In your opinion, what's one of the most mysterious, intriguing, interesting, or puzzling things that people do? Let me see your hand. One of the most mysterious, which one are you going to answer?
Puzzling.
Puzzling. What's one of the most puzzling things people do? Tell me your name.
Brooke.
Brooke, what is it?
Crying.
Crying. Huh, that's a puzzling. How many think crying is puzzling? Why is it so puzzling, Brooke? What's puzzling about it to you?
Just that tears come out of your eyeballs.
Fluid comes out of your eyeballs. That's kind of freaky, isn't it? It's puzzling. It's accompanied by deep emotions oftentimes, right? Not always. It could be just simply something's in our eye, right? It's a protective feature. But if it's accompanied, and I think what makes it puzzling is that we're oftentimes, what emotion are you feeling when you oftentimes cry?
Happy.
Sad or happy. Any others?
Painful.
You could be in pain. You could be stressed. By the way, a lot of these, when you're sad and everything else, here's the cool thing, by the way, with tears, I love crying. I don't cry. I'm not a crier. Who's not a crier in here? Yeah, right. No, seriously, some of us haven't cried in a long time. I honestly don't. I'm not a big crier. Some commercials every once in a while get me. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I'll watch Britain's Got Talent or like X Factor, and I see somebody that they're ripping on and they do really well, and I kind of like tear up a little bit, and I have to turn away, and I go, I don't cry. But some people, who are the criers in here? Where are you guys like? There's no woohoo about that. Now there is. Maybe there is a woohoo. I don't know. But ready? Here's the interesting thing about crying. We'll talk about it in psychology because guess what? Two powerful things. Ready? We take your tears and look at them, and almost always we find an increase in cortisol within the contents of your tear, which shows stress. And it's also a relief of stress. In other words, some people seem to be getting out of their system by use of even some tears, some of the stress hormones that are going through the body. And we could also tell stress levels by that. Who else likes to collect your tears besides psychologists studying stress? And scientists. God does. Psalm 50, I think, 6:8 says, He collects our tears in a bottle. Who knew that verse? That God collects your tears. Where are the criers? God's collected all of your tears in a bottle, and He holds on to that bottle. Is that cool or what? All right. That was a puzzling, and we'll talk about, by the way, sadness and depression and happiness, and we'll talk about tears.
I guess mysterious.
Mysterious.
Creating things, composing things.
How we as humans are able to create something or impose like order and create. And it's just kind of...
Composing music.
Like compose things. Yeah, man. So our creative endeavors and what we're able to do almost as a reflection of the kingdom, let's say, of what God has created. And He says, go and... Or anything that we create seems to be well, that's cool. We'll talk about that. Okay? Give me another.
Intriguing when people, whenever they're bored, they do something on impulse, even though it causes themselves pain.
Oh, sometimes what's intriguing for you is that why do people sometimes when they're bored do something that might be bad? Be bad for them or cause them pain?
And they know it from the beginning, but they just impulsively wanted to try.
Can you, they might want to try something compulsively even though it may cause them pain. Can you think of an example? Like,
I know a bunch of my neighbors the other day, they were so bored they took an airbag and tried to bounce off of it when it exploded.
They tried to bounce off of an airbag when it exploded to see what would happen. Yeah. Yeah, okay, that's, we talk a little bit about things like that when psychological disorders. There's a lot of scary things that people do, and yet what happens to them. Fascinating. Let's go back there. Go ahead.
Something I think is interesting is just how people react to group mentalities.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Group mentalities. We'll talk about that, by the way, towards the end of the semester in social psychology. When in groups, people do very strange and different things that they would never do when alone. Is that what you're referring to? Yeah, can you think of an example like what a person might do in a group? Or so here's a study she's referring to is that individually, if I show you like, is the answer A, B, C, or D, and I make it so clear, and you go, gosh, the answer is A, everybody can see A, and if I ask everybody, they say A, but then I put about 8 people in the room who are plants, and there's only one person, and I say to them, what's the correct answer? And you know, we've been doing this a number of times, and everybody's, oh, it's A, next time it's D, it's E, it's B, it's A, whatever, and everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden, I show one that's extremely clear, and I have 8 people who are in the study with me. The 9th person thinks that they're just one of the 9, and they say, the answer is B, and they go, C. And then the next person, C. And then the person's looking like, and then C, and then C, and then C, and then C. And then you get to that person, and it's you, and you know the answer's not C, you know it's B. What are you going to say? What percentage of people say C, the wrong answer? You think about that, and you have to wait 15 weeks, and I'll give you the answer. Because that's what we're going to talk about that study. It's called conformity. Well done study, great thought, puzzling, intriguing, we'll have answers.
I think it's mysterious or puzzling, like eating disorders.
Eating disorders,
Like how
yeah.
someone can think they, like, their brain like makes them think like they look like fat, but they're really like very like malnourished.
Great. She said that sometimes in certain kinds of disorders, including something like an eating disorder, some people's perceptions of themselves is thrown off. They might see themselves differently than the world and everybody else objectively sees them, right? Sometimes people with eating disorders sometimes see plates and food is bigger in quantity than it really is. Or themselves, body image. Gosh, we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Let's try one more. Yeah.
Sleep. Yes, technically we don't need it, but for some reason everyone goes nuts about it.
Sleep is a really mysterious thing. And in a mysterious way, we know, we've uncovered some cool things about sleep, and it yet still continues to be one of the oddest things. By the way, in about 4 or 5 weeks, we're going to spend some time talking about sleep, and then we'll talk about different theories about why we sleep, what happens during sleep. We'll talk about dreams, sleep disorders, things like that. Very mysterious. Well, these are awesome. I love that. Let me give you one that I find intriguing. Now, I change my mind all the time on this because I've been studying psychology for a long time, and I love studying and doing research on humans and finding out cool things, and I'll share some of those studies with you as the semester goes along. One that I'm intrigued with kind of at different times, like I said, this varies, but one right now that I'm intrigued with happened to a man, maybe about, it's been almost maybe 10, 12, let's see, if I get my math right, it might have even been 15 years ago. He basically had a series of strokes. And what happened to this man, I've been thinking about and processing that. So this man had a couple of strokes. And what these strokes did is they crossed, or better yet, kind of took away his ability to see. So in dealing with this stroke, it hit in his brain, and his eyes, ready, at the end of the stroke were normal. His visual cortex in the occipital lobe region of his brain, normal. The connections between the eye and this particular pathway to the visual cortex, it goes through this thing called the thalamus to the visual cortex, that's where the stroke hit and it wiped it out, so he's blind. So if you put a picture of something in front of him, you put a book, you put a backpack, a computer, or a face on a picture, he goes like this. He says, I can't see it. But here's the twist. If you ask him to take a guess about the emotion on the face that you showed him, so if you showed him a face, for example, of somebody being very sad and crying, he goes like this. He sits there, he goes, I don't see anything. Well, that's a face. And can you tell me the emotion? And he guesses at above average rate, beyond any guessing, he gets it right. Is that kind of a mystery? The man's blind. He can't see. But if you ask him to guess the emotion on the face that you just put in front of him, he gets it right. And have any of you heard of this? We did brain scans on the man to figure that. Wouldn't you want to go, well, let's go look at his brain and see what's wrong? That's a mystery. By the way, it has huge implications for us today. It has implications for lots of things about emotions, because this is a man who's blind and he can read accurately the emotion on the face that he can't see. So they did a brain scan. What do you think they found? They found a different pathway into his brain that detects emotions. We have the same pathway. And so it goes like this. The story of psychology is about cool things, different things, ways in which people become intrigued with human behavior, and they go like this: I want to know that. I want to figure this out. Why do people get along with each other? Why do people not like each other? Why do people have tears, fluid come out of their eyes? Why do some people change and act differently in a crowd? And that's what psychology is. Psychology just goes, I want to study something weird about humans, or puzzling, or interesting, or mysterious. And then I want to go look at this and figure it out. So by the way, they did brain scans on this man. So he had a stroke. He loses his sight. You don't have to necessarily write this down in your notes, but if you want, there you go. Instead, what I'd like you to do, and it's more just a story right now. Brain scans revealed something different, an alternate pathway for seeing. Now that's different. You mean there's a different pathway? And the answer was, there was. He had a pathway that you and I also have, and it goes in a very simplistic way. We're not going to get into the details of the brain right now. It's just kind of a story. But what we found was his other pathway. The face would come into his eyes, and the part that went to the thalamus and then to the visual cortex didn't exist because it was broken. It was the stroke wiped it out, and so he was functionally blind. But there was a second pathway. It goes from the eyes to the thalamus to this thing called the amygdala, which extracts emotional meanings from contexts, from nonverbal messages. So there's a second pathway. It's called this low road of consciousness, and you have it. It's a low road of awareness, and it's about people when you watch them and talk with them and interact with them, and you walk away from them and you go, I felt something as I talked to them. I didn't like them. How many of you had a conversation with somebody and you walked away and you felt uneasy, uncomfortable? You did it, there was something, but you would have a hard time articulating it, you just felt it that way. Some of you, if a guy says, I don't like you, well, you might feel uncomfortable, and it's pretty clear, whatever. But if it was just simply a conversation, or how about the opposite? You had a conversation with somebody and you really kind of liked them. You were just like, I like this person. They're attractive to me. There's something about them, and you have a good emotion. Well, guess what? This alternate pathway is done through the amygdala, and he still had it intact, and he could read the emotions. And here is the weird, that is the weird part. But here's the kind of cool thing about it. This amygdala extracted emotional meaning from the nonverbal messages. So a frown that you do when you're talking to somebody and you're struggling and someone says, are you okay? And you say, yeah, I'm fine. But if there's a frown or a grimace that you make and give away to somebody, or maybe there's a sudden change of body posture, or maybe your tone of voice is, I'm not angry. You ever had someone say, you sound angry? No, I'm not angry. Would you believe their words, or would you believe their tone of voice? Tone of voice. Wait a minute. If somebody said to you, if you said you kind of were picking up something and you kind of felt they were angry, and you said to them, are you angry? And this person said, no, I'm not angry, but their body posture and their tone of voice said they're angry. How many would believe their body posture and their tone of voice? Why would you believe that instead? I'm telling you, I'm not angry. Because we believe that there's something about our emotions and our nonverbal, which are, well, you tell me, why would you believe that versus the words?
Well, like a lot of times we try to hide stuff. So
do we try and hide things? Is anger one that you would try and hide? I might not want you to know I'm angry. What do you think?
Because it's easier to lie with your words than lie with your...
Is it easier to lie with your words than with your body?
Yeah.
Would you guys like to know how to detect lies non-verbally? Yes. You have to wait for like week 10. Ready? We believe more regularly that which a person gives off non-verbally because their face betrays them oftentimes, your body does, and it's harder for me to hide this. So a grimace and a frown, our amygdalas, ready, are designed, we come equipped to pick this up in people. And we process it, and that's what the guy still had, this low road of consciousness that went in through the amygdala, and he went like this. We would say, what's the emotion on the face? And he'd go like, he would sometimes respond like this. His name was Patient X. He's got a name, but that's what they called him, Patient X. And he'd go like this. I'm feeling a little bit sad right now. I think the emotion is sadness. He felt something. In other words, he saw something. We call that affective blind sight. It's called blind sight. That's, if you want to go look something up kind of cool, called blind sight, and it's the ability for people who are functionally, in some ways at the high road, blind, still able to affectively feel things, which is what you and I use in context and in situations, and our amygdalas work overtime and very quickly, extracting the slightest change in a person's emotions or body posture, and we pay attention to that. That is, to me, very powerful, and it's an idea because here's what happens that's interesting. That emotion that you are catching or seeing in somebody else is oftentimes primed in you, and you experience that same feeling. And hence, we can say pretty clearly that most of our interactions have an emotional subtext. Now, if you walk by me and we say, hi, how's it going? Good to see you, how you been? There's not a whole lot of emotional subtext, but sometimes you can talk to somebody, hi, how you doing? And you could read right away. How many have ever done that? You read right away they're kind of sad or depressed or not doing well. They just said a word to you, and you're reading. That is this low road. That's what you're reading. That's the emotional subtext. And it's sometimes picked up in body posture and tone. Well, of what value is that? Somebody give me why you think this could be of strong value to understand and to know in humans and in us.
And you can understand like the perspective of where they're coming from.
We can then begin to pick out, like Wi-Fi almost, a connection with that other person. It's like we're connected by Wi-Fi. Because they have an emotion and we feel it. And if you pay attention, you could go like this. Huh, that's interesting. I'm feeling this emotion. By the way, 150, how many know who Edgar Allan Poe was? He was an author. You all do. That's awesome. You've been trained very well. I don't know where you went to school. Way to go, Edgar Allan Poe. So he wrote this 100 and how many years ago now? 20? I don't know when he was writing. He said this, if I want to tell how good or wicked a man is, he says, what I do is I mimic on my face the expressions on his to the best of my ability, and then I wait to see what I feel. If I want to know how good or wicked a man is, I look at his face and I put his expression onto my face, and then I wait to see what I feel. Is that cool? Do you want to read people? Do you want to know what they're feeling and thinking? By the way, most of our emotions are pretty contagious. This is why. It's because if you interact with somebody and they're showing a particular emotion, you hang around with them a lot, you're probably going to walk away feeling that emotion after a while because your face is probably mimicking and doing and feeling theirs. How many find this kind of intriguing and cool and interesting? You want to add one more layer to this? Your body picks it up like his body. Remember what did he say he did? The guy that was blind, that had this stroke, and now he looked at the face, he saw this image, a picture of a person showing sadness. What did he say? He says, I feel affect. That's the affect. I feel, he didn't see it, sad. One of the reasons he felt sad, probably, this is very complex. I'm kind of simplifying it because it's just an intriguing story and we're going to study it as we go along. But one of the things that happens to him is, ready? It's because that amygdala picks it up. It pulls out the emotion in the context and it extracts that nonverbal message and reads the emotions. But it also picks up his own face. His brain picks up his own face. So you do this. You take a pencil, and we had people do this, and what happens is your brain has something called a facial feedback mechanism. So your brain extracts information from your own face as to the emotion it sometimes feels. And the way we know this is if you put a smile on your face, you tend to feel happy. Have you heard that before? Is there a song like that?
I had a mentor once who said you can't engage your body in any physical activity and have your soul remain unaffected.
Your soul will not remain unaffected by the activity of what your body does. So already check this one out. You could do this. People were shown comic strips, things that were funny, and then we asked them to rate the comic strip, and they would read this comic strip, and they would rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. They go, oh, that's like a 4. Oh, that's like a 7. Oh, that's funny, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And then we did one more thing with this pencil to have them rate these comics as funnier. What could I do with this pencil to have everybody who rated these comics now go back and rate more comics, and their scales, instead of being an average of like a 5 out of 10, it went to like 7 out of 10 on funniness scale.
Hold it right here.
You can hold it right there, that's close.
Put smiley faces on it.
Put a smiley faces on it and they get a look at it.
If you like hold it in your teeth.
Yeah, here's what they did. They said, take a pencil, hold it in your teeth, and don't let your lips touch it. And now rate the comics. That's funny, that's funny. Why? Because my brain's going, oh, you're smiling. That must mean you're funny, and that's funny. Oh, that's funny. Isn't that amazing? It's called because your brain picks up on your face, and so when you mimic somebody and you talk to somebody, you're like, they're grimacing, and they're like, oh, it sounds like that hurts a lot. And you're like, oh yeah, it hurts. Oh, and then you feel that, right? Because your face is doing the same thing. Isn't that cool? So you put on the face of somebody else, and you could kind of figure out and start to discern what they're thinking, and we like that. We want to know more. And then I sometimes, when I tell jokes in class, I say, put the pencil in your mouth right now. Okay, that's whatever. But now, if you're like concerned about that and you're giving a speech, you want it to be funny, try that little trick. Here, and you tell people, put a pencil in your mouth, smile, don't let your lip touch it. That would be awesome. Or maybe you want the opposite. Maybe you want to be mad and angry. Say, all right, keep your lips really strong and clench down on this. Okay, whatever. Point is, our brains are sophisticated, mysterious, cool things. And every day there's an emotional subtext, and we can read and understand people. It's just one example of some things that I think psychologists like to do and go, what does that mean? How then does my face and that other person's face impact? Can we really share emotions? And the answer is, we get why are emotions so contagious? It's because we read them in other people and we kind of put them on. And so therefore, who you hang around with can have a big impact on you. But also you start to go, here's the weird thing, and here's the one little thing that I'll kind of a teaser for lying behavior. It's when their face and their nonverbal doesn't match up with their words. That's when we go, you're deceiving me. You are angry, right? That's the first, there you go. Someone says, I'm not angry, and their face is showing anger and all that, you can probably go, okay, you're not being honest with me. There it is. We use that, we think about that, we study that. That's one of the intriguing things. I love doing that. By the way, another one I'll talk about in a couple of days here when we get to the biology of the brain is something called a mirror neuron, which is one of the mechanisms by which we use to imitate, and the amygdala uses and extracts information, and a mirror neuron is also involved in this process, and I'll talk some more about those as they go along. Let's start with this then. Questions, by the way, anything in that or something intriguing or puzzling that you want to ask or, yeah?
Well, that reminded me when you're talking about like smiling. I remember when I was on a ropes course during the summer, and I was completely terrified, but I like smiled the whole time, and I felt so much more confident.
So you're scared of being on the ropes course, but smiling made you feel less scared. Mm-hmm. Could you fool yourself sometimes? Somebody once said just like that, if you're having a bad day, and if you walk like that, like, oh, I'm so sad, then you probably will feel that. But if you kind of just say, I'm going to walk happy and be happy, you might be able to kind of get yourself a little bit up.
For the amygdala, can people subconsciously train their minds to kind of not feel other people's feelings because then they don't want to react on their stuff? So
can we train ourselves? Well, let's try this. Is it possible for us to ignore what's going on in somebody else's face? What about, yeah, have you ever heard of examples and stories of people who don't see the pain in somebody or don't want to see it? I think oftentimes one of the things we choose to do is not call it out or ignore it. Is that what you're saying? Sometimes we maybe
No, but
you're saying even deeper, train ourselves to ignore it.
Yeah, because it's like our brain, because like we don't do it like intending to do it,
Yeah.
but like, you know what I mean?
No, I think there is, the question is, could we train to not do this? And the answer is, yeah, I bet we could. And I think a lot of people are maybe numb or not aware as much of other people. By the way, people who have had Botox, you know who I'm talking about? People who have and they have that face because Botox injections stop wrinkles, but the way they do it is they freeze the muscle in the face. Now, you see where I'm going with this? Guess what people who have had Botox injections report when it comes to their emotional life and their emotional experiences? Do you think their emotional experiences, remember, here, let me give you the answer. Botox freezes and kind of stops some of the muscles from firing, which helps the wrinkles. That's why their face kind of looks like, and they're like, oh, I don't know what they look like, but their muscles don't fire. So the muscles aren't firing in their face as much. You predict for me their self-reported level of their emotional life. Is it increased or decreased because of that? Decreased. Why is it decreased? Because of the facial feedback hypothesis. You guys have already picked it up. You see now their face doesn't react. And guess what they say? They report this. They say they're like off a little bit. They don't react to somebody who they're talking with, and they're going, they're like, their synchrony is off somewhat. They don't feel such emotion in a person because their face isn't quite keeping up. Isn't that interesting? To me, there's all kinds of consequences and interesting things about this and about that to me. By the way, the answer to, can you train not to do this? The other answer is people train to read faces even better. You go to an airport, I guarantee you, at almost any major airport, there is a person there who's been trained to read your body language. You may not see them. You may think it's just the guy. He's there and he's picking up things and he or she is going like this. Fine. Trouble. Right there. Watch him. Why? Because they're picking up something in their behavior, and these behavioral analysts are really good at watching for things that shouldn't be. Pretty cool, huh? All kinds of connections, and we got to move on, huh? Okay, so let's start, and then what should be the most, an obvious answer. I think this is the answer. What's the most complex thing in existence? There is, I don't know if you could come up with another answer besides the brain. Maybe like a black hole or a worm, I don't know what you could call it, but ultimately at the end of the day, there's not a lot of things more complex than the brain. It's just simply the way it is. It's extremely, and that's what this class is about. The brain and the mind, and taking that complexity and figuring it out and find out what's puzzling and studying it and understanding it and exploring it, and then helping people who struggle in certain areas when the brain gets messed up or behavior's messed up. Would you agree the brain, most common thing? Anybody else have another answer? God in existence. Okay, yeah, he says God. Great. Let's start with that one. Probably the most complex thing in existence. Let's start with God. That's great. Now I'm assuming he created all this, and if he did, then we could say, the brain. That's an amazing creation right there. Anything else? Someone said women. I don't think that's it. The face. Is that what you said? Oh, space. I thought you said the face. That's kind of cool, but the space in general, I mean, it's pretty complex, right? I mean, if you're going to go study something out there which has all kinds of weird things to it, at the end of the day, that one would rank on the top 5 list, no doubt. So, that person sitting there looking at that doll, that child, is there anything weird about it? No, she's just a kid. She's my kid. And she's staring at Whoopi. She loves Whoopi. Sometimes we thought she was too attached to Whoopi, because if she wouldn't go to sleep without Whoopi. And then one time we lost Whoopi. That was not the best day at the Grace household. At that point, we went and bought 4 Whoopies. And we gave her one whoopee at a time, but this isn't whoopee. Well, whoopee. No, this is whoopee. Whoopee just went and had a makeover. This is the whoopee. And so finally she took the other one, and we had like spares, like in the car, we had one in the house, in the garage, everywhere we could. Because there's an attachment to this, and how many of you had a whoopee when you, don't raise your hand. Some of you had things that you were attached to, and this is a complex experience between an animate object and an inanimate, and what that means, and then how did this person fall asleep? We'll talk about things like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it becomes simply, if you want, a challenge. Human behavior, human experiences, your behavior is extremely complex. I'm a psychologist. I've been doing this a long time. I can't figure out your behavior all the time. I don't know what you're thinking. Some people say, it's weird to come talk to a psychologist. Well, I'm not figuring you out. Now, some of you, you're pretty clear because I use my amygdala and I use my mirror neurons and I use my ability to read your face, and I go, you seem kind of sad. But it's not because I have great insight. You have the same kinds of experiences. Psychologists don't have this amazing gift to read into the lives of people. But I do know some things, like I can tell you, if I get to know you, by the way, you can come up and lie to me. I probably wouldn't pick it out. But if I got to know you, you probably couldn't lie to me very well. Because I know how to do it. Now, it doesn't mean I'm great at it. Some people never get this skill, and I only have a small portion of it because I know the research behind it. I've been studying a long time. I know what to look for. But you could still fool me because humans are complex. Human beings and understanding emotions and thoughts and behavior, it's bigger than any person or any topic or even any discipline like psychology. But this discipline of psychology is one of the tools that we have to help us start to explore the mysteries of human thinking, cognitions, and emotions. And that's what we're going to do in this class. So let's try this. Let's do a true or false. And in fact, let's use your clickers, take them out, and if you want, we'll try it that way. And if you don't have a clicker, it's fine. You'll have the questions that'll pop up here, and as the questions pop up, you can answer them. And it's just a great way of trying to get, let's say, some insights into what we're going to be studying over the next, 15 weeks of the semester in this. So let's start with a true false. By the way, I think most of it, A or number one, if you're using a clicker, would be true, and B or 2 or whatever would be false. And so most of these are going to be just simply true, false. I'll pause between each of them and we'll ask. And so here it goes. First one, you hit A if you think it's A and enter. To be useful, laboratory experiments in psychology must recreate the behaviors of everyday life. To be useful, laboratory experiments in psychology must recreate the behaviors of everyday life. For some of you that are able to read ahead, in a textbook in psychology that we have, then you're able to maybe know the answer to this one or you've thought about it. But we do and we're going to talk about a lot of lab experiments in here when we try things. I told you about, did I tell you about a little bit about my dissertation yet? I don't know if I did, where I studied helping behavior and why people give help. And I did it in a laboratory experiment in a setting. But the answer to this question, what do you think? Some of you aren't clicking in, go quicker. We'll get to 200 and we'll see where most of you are. The answer, to be useful, is the answer is false. 170 you put true, 27 of you put false. And the reason this is false is because they don't have to recreate the behaviors. We could do odd and weird, interesting things in labs and still find some cool things. So this one, to be useful, laboratory experiments don't have to recreate, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, and we'll talk a little bit about experiments. So you can see now this quiz is going to be kind of hard. The human brain produces its own natural opiates that ease pain and elevate mood. True or false? A would be true, B would be false. What do you think? Someone raise your hand, tell me what you think. Does the human brain, and what is it, or if they do?
I think true.
Think it's true, and any experiences of this? Anybody want to say, anybody have an experience with this? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so like we have this thing, by the way, we're going to spend some time talking about these kinds of things like natural opiates, but we'll also talk about this opiate being part of these kind of neural pathway and a neurotransmitter, and one of those is called an endorphin. It's kind of like a neuromodulator, but it helps us with pain. So one of you have ever experienced this before, a massive amount of pain, what happens, and it's that something in the body kicks in and stops us from feeling that. I was playing in a football game one time, got kicked, hurt. Okay, I finish off, I don't know how much longer I'm finishing off the game, but I don't feel the pain anymore. In fact, it goes away. I don't even remember it now. So at the end of the game, I take down my sock, and when I pull down my sock, I had on this leg probably something about the size of an orange coming out of my shin area. A contusion. Now, I didn't hurt, but remember, I was done feeling pain. And until what? Until I saw it. And then I saw it, and I went, oh, like that. I thought, why did I put an orange in my sock? That was the dumbest thing I ever did. Is that an egg? What is that? And I pulled it down, and it was my leg. And it hurt. By the way, it wasn't a bone, it was just like a bruise, you know what I mean? But I remember feeling pain at that moment, and I went, oh, how come I didn't feel any pain before then? That was probably because I was being flooded with a thing called endorphins and other things, and seeing it change my perception, and now I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna die. I don't know what I thought, but it started to hurt. Ready? The answer to this one, for most everybody, scoring at home, the answer is what? The answer is true. Almost everybody got 249 of you got it right. Way to go. Next question. Newborns can see only light and dark shades. True or false? Newborns can only see light and dark shades. Anybody have an interest in newborns and what they can see and what they can't see, or how newborns behave or act? How many love just hanging around newborns because they're like, it's cool and fun, and we're going to study newborns? By the way, one of the most coolest things is, ready? When they pop out of the womb and they come out and they're sitting there, we know what? I told you last time, or earlier on as we started this class, that newborns are fascinated by what?
Faces.
They're fascinated by faces and eyes, and so therefore, we know the answer to this question is? The answer to this question, it's not going to pop up. Maybe it will. Is false. Because why? Well, we give newborns options and things to see. And here's a cool thing, right? And we'll spend a little bit more time on this one. But if you give a newborn an option of something that it can see, and you can tell, you can ask it what it sees. And the way we do that is a cool little scientific trick or developmental psych trick on knowing we know what a baby likes or remembers even before it can speak. A baby 1 week of age, we can oftentimes tell if it prefers its mom or a stranger. How can you ask a 1 week old baby if it prefers, let's say, the voice of its mom versus the voice of a stranger? Crying, maybe. They might cry at the voice of a stranger sometimes. 1 week old, it's early for them to do that, but that's one way. Crying's a great behavioral thing we can study. Anybody else want to take a guess?
Like if you show them a picture of their mom versus a stranger, or their voice versus the stranger, then they'll get bored easier at the one that they're not familiar with.
Yeah, so we could look at things like, if you show them certain things, they might even show more preference by staring longer at the face, and we do that. We can take newborns. Well, I'll show you some of these other cool things. We can take even pacifiers and hook them up to the voice. And this one right here, ready? This pacifier plays the song, their mom, and the mom had been saying the same nursery rhymes 4 or 5 weeks before birth, and sticking up to the stomach and just speaking it out, and then the baby would hear that, and then this pacifier would play the mom with that nursery rhyme whenever it would suck on this one, and then the baby had an option of moving to sucking to this one. Usually at 1 week old, they just left it like here, and then the mom would be on it, and they would hear it. And you put headphones on this baby, and the mom would be going, oh, bah, 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 and the baby would be sucking, and sitting there. And then you have a stranger saying it, and the baby would stop. And then the mom would just. And then they go, oh, they know their mom's voice. That's cool, huh? Little sign. I'm giving you all the tricks. Ready? Next thing, and that's my job. So, advertisers, that was a weird way to say it, are able to shape our buying habits through subliminal messages. By the way, I'm giving you, these are like little true-false questions about upcoming topics, so I'm not going to spend too much time on them, but I just want to see. So the answer to this one, we'll wait till a couple people more, and then what do you think? How many believe that advertisers use subliminal messages? The majority of y'all are raising your hand. How many believe that advertisers can shape your buying habits by using these subliminal messages? Interesting. So the answer, by the way, let's see how many of you get it right. Well, a lot of y'all are clicking in. It takes a little bit of time to end. 4 of you got this one right. 260 got it wrong, and I stopped it before all of you. So most of you believe that advertisers can shape your buying habits by using subliminal messages. We're gonna show you subliminal messages in this class. I'm gonna show you some subliminal, and I'm gonna test you to see how well you do. Because the answer is false. We have no documented or scientific evidence ever of a subliminal message changing a person's buying habits. None. Isn't that interesting? Most of y'all missed that one. I'll tell you what the brain does when it receives a subliminal message and why, as this message comes in, it strikes the brain, but why it is unable to shape you or change your buying habits. It's also not even to shape most of your behavior. There is one little thing it can do, though. A subliminal message can have an impact. I'll share that one in a couple of weeks. Sorry, you gotta wait. Psychological research clearly indicates that some people have ESP. I'll send the answer to you right now, subliminally. Wait, I'll send it to you using ESP. The answer is, how many of y'all think that we have found that some people have the ability, everybody knows what ESP is, extrasensory perception, the ability to send, for example, one example would be, ESP is if I can send a thought to you without saying it. Not nonverbal, my emotion, but like I can say the answer to this question is, and I can send it to you and you can hear it. How many believe that's possible, that some people can share their thoughts? Well, here's the answer. Some of you don't want to give the answer, do you? Here it is. More of you got this one right. Great. More than half, the answer is false. We're going to talk about ESP. In fact, I'm going to show you demonstrations of ESP in this class. And I'll show you why it's used for some people, what they think might very well be this ESP, when in reality, extrasensory perception has a very checkered history in science, and we'll talk some about that in this class. And I'll show you somebody that claims to have ESP, and we'll actually test them in here. Some people dream every night. Others seldom dream. Go ahead, question.
You know The Shining?
Is
that kind of an example of that, sort of, or no?
Maybe. There are some examples of that in the media and in portrayals where that's used based upon some things. And then we'll talk a little bit about why some of those are accurate and some are not. How's that? All right. Do some people dream? How many think you seldom dream? Let me see if you how many say you just don't ever remember your dreams? How many are in that category, you just don't remember your dreams? Tell you what, I will give you a way. How many would like to remember your dreams more regularly? I'll give you how to do that. How's that sound? In about 4 weeks. Because we don't have time, man. If I went into dreams right now, I'd tell you a little bit about the theory of dreams, why we sleep, and then I could tell you why, because of that, how to remember your dreams. So remind me, and I'll tell you, how do you remember your dream and your dreams? And it's a pretty simple way to do it. Oh, most of you got this one right. The answer to this one is it's false, because we have found that everyone dreams every night, and that's part of the answer to how I will tell you how you can remember your dreams, because I and anybody that studies sleeping and dreaming know the secret to knowing when you're dreaming. And if you know that, then you can figure out how to remember your dreams. It's pretty, yeah. The seldom would be that there's some people who believe out there that, I rarely dream, or only maybe every once in a while, every couple of weeks I dream, something like that. But research has actually shown that any person we bring into a sleep laboratory who says they don't dream, we hook them up, and then we wake them at a strategic time, and they're in the middle of a dream, and then they report it, and they're like, I do dream, like that. And that was a good one. Put me back to sleep, like that.
Will we study lucid dreaming at all?
We'll study lucid dreaming, which is a type of dream in which you are aware that you're dreaming. Anybody in here dream and then they know they're dreaming, and then they get, Look at all your all hands. And how many do that on a regular basis where you're dreaming, you know you're dreaming, and you could change your dream? Yeah, I don't like you all because I wish I could do that sometimes. How many wish you could know you're dreaming and then change your dream? I don't know how to help you with that one, but ready? The amount of information that can be stored in human memory appears to be unlimited. The amount of information that can be stored in human memory appears to be unlimited. A, you think that's true. B, you think it's false. And the answer, quickly, some of you all are clicking in and some are still changing your answers. So, true or false? This one is false, and here's why. The reason it's false is because simply, we're going to study memory as well. Memory is a weird, strange thing. What you remember, how you remember it. We talked about at one point faces and how you remember faces and our ability to remember information and storage. The amount is, the word is unlimited. The answer is true. Did I say false? Yeah. I read it as the memory appears to be limited. The amount of how many changed your answer because I said it that way? Oh, okay, no worries. The amount of information that we can store in human memory appears to be unlimited, and that one is true. Guess why? It's because we find people still continue to be able to put memories in. And we haven't yet found a person who goes like this. They're like 75 going, oh, I'm done, I just hit my limit. I can't remember anything else. No more. Why even talk to me? Because I hit my limit. So that's the first clue, that it's unlimited. The second clue is people just keep adding things in all the time. Now, is it possible that we lose things? And is it possible that we don't remember things as clearly? And that is true. There are some problems with memory, but long-term memory is essentially unlimited, and that one's true. Okay. Okay, 2 more questions. 3, 8, 9, and 10. If you are truly innocent of a crime, you have nothing to fear from taking a lie detector test. Raise your hand if you've been charged. No, not really. If you know how to get out, would you like to know how to get out of a lie detector test? Some of you are like, oh, see, I could increase my YouTube hits to like 20 if I told people how to, but there's a way to get out of it. Anybody know how to break a lie detector test? First of all, what's the first thing you should know about a lie detector test? Well, okay, heart rate, that's good. That's one of the ways. Skin, there's what's called a galvanic skin. I'll tell you the answer, by the way, here. If you are truly innocent of a crime, you have nothing to fear from taking a lie detector test. This one is going to be what? False. This one's going to be false. Why would you have something to fear from a lie detector test? Go ahead. What's that? Okay, so some of our physiological responses, like blood pressure, you say, might go up when? What's that? Oh, okay, so it's false. Most of you got this answer correct. Why else should we fear a lie detector test or fear this? Yeah, go ahead.
We trust ourselves, but then we can't really necessarily trust the machine.
Can you trust this machine? Well, let's start with that machine then. Does a lie detector test, true or false, does a lie detector test detect lies? No, it doesn't detect lies. What is a lie detector test designed to test? Heart rate, galvanic skin response. I was in an intro to psychology class and we did a lie detector and I was like in your class, right here, and they called me up in front to be hooked up to the lie detector machine. And so I walked up and he goes like, hey Chris, how about you? I was like, okay, whatever. So I came up there, hooked me up to this machine, and it went like this. Beep, 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 beep. Whenever I got stressed, it would go higher. And it hooked up to my fingers like this, and so initially it's like beep, 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 beep. And he says, okay, just kind of relax, I'll start lecturing, and beep, 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 beep. And it took a long time, and I finally got down. So beep, beep, and then he said, okay, Chris, I'm looking at your grade right now, looks like you're getting an F. And I went beep, beep, because I knew I wasn't. Like, no, I'm getting an A, beep, beep, so it wasn't a problem. Beep, 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 beep. But then everybody laughed, beep, like, oh, don't laugh, that was weird. Beep, 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 beep. All right, Chris, let's try another one. He tried something else. Beep, 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 nothing. And then he pointed to a girl. And he said, you, Jennifer, I want you to come up front and kiss Chris. And he said the word kiss. And it went beep, 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 beep. I'm like, just like that. And I remember thinking, dear Lord, that's horrible. I had no control whatsoever, just gone. Does that detect a lie? There's no lie there. I didn't even know who she was. Just the word kiss. Come up and kiss him. A lie detector it detects what? Physiological arousal. When all of a sudden some words are said to you, all of a sudden my hand just sweated, like whatever. I don't know why. Well, I know why. So what happens at the end of this is you have got to know that in a lie detector, we're going to talk about emotions in this class. And if someone charges you a crime and they say, where were you the night of blah, 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 they're going to take a baseline. Beep, 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 beep. How do you respond? And then if you're lying, beep, 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 beep. And that's how you beat a lie detector test. You beat it by understanding that it picks up the difference. So he could tell the difference between me and when he said that because he saw my response when I was aroused. Got it? So here's me, beep, beep, beep. Okay, Jennifer, come up and kiss him. Beep, 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 beep. Now he knows, when he's aroused, that's what's going to happen. Make sense? So guess how thieves beat it, or criminals. And that's why we don't allow most lie detector tests as admissible for evidence, is because a lot of people understand, all you got to do is bring the lows up to the highs.
Yeah.
I'll show you how to do that later. But you can think about it. You bring your low beep, 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 up to the high, beep, beep, beep. That way a little high won't register. I probably shouldn't be telling you some of these things. Watch, they're gonna ban this whole thing. The most common form of schizophrenia is the split personality, in which a person possesses two or more separate identities. This is a hard conversation sometimes. One, because we're dealing with something that is as hard as things like schizophrenia and depression, anxiety, and we're going to spend some time in here talking about it, and some of you all have had personal experiences with all of this. But by the way, you'll learn some things, like the answer to this question, the most common form of schizophrenia is the split personality. The answer to this one is false. Split personalities aren't part of schizophrenia. They're a completely separate and very rare type of disorder. So rare that most psychologists don't ever treat people with split personalities because they rarely see them. But schizophrenia does involve kind of a split, but it's a different kind of split. And we'll talk about what that means, where their emotions and their mind changes, but it's not because of a split personality or separate identities. And then lastly, one question that is interesting and true, false, that we'll talk about is individuals will not administer a severe shock to other people merely because we tell them to do so. So if I say to somebody, I want you to shock this person every time they get an answer wrong because we want to teach them how to learn better, and we do that by applying shock every time they miss a question, and that was the study. And then this person, we wanted to find how far would they keep going? What if the shock got really painful? And by the way, the answer to this question is a very sobering answer, but individuals do administer severe shocks to others. And so this one's false. Because the question, individuals will not administer severe shock, is false because people actually do administer that. That will be towards the very end of the semester. And when we get there, you'll learn some things that are pretty interesting about how we obey people, especially how we obey people in authority and why we obey people in authority. So, true, false, and then here's the last. I've got only about 5 minutes, and here's what I'd like to do over the last 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you about some of the things that we're going to be studying, and you can kind of see so far that we're going to cover a wide range of human behavior. Things like arachnophobia. Anybody in here have arachnophobia? We'll talk about some of you with phobias. Some of you have other phobias, claustrophobia. We'll talk about phobias because it's about fear. Here's also anxiety, altruism, the behaviorally disturbed, people with eating disorders and conscious awareness and what that means, and creativity and depression and dreams. And so, ready? What I'd like to do is have you write down for me real quickly the definition of psychology. By the way, you're going to find this in your textbook. You can find it almost everywhere. But just to let you know, the definition is this. It's the psyche. The word psychology comes from the Greek word psych, or psyche, which is the word that we use for soul. And so if you add the word logos, it means the word or to talk about. And so by kind of extrapolation, the definition of psychology is to talk about the soul or to talk about the very us, our beings, our souls. And so that's not the formal definition. It's just kind of breaking the word psychology when you see it down. It's the logos to talk about our psyche and our soul. I'm more concerned that you get the definition, and this is just kind of extrapolating the word. So you don't have to write down the Greek. The psi symbol for P is a quick way of. So here's a better way. Psych or psychology. This is what I want you to know. It's the scientific study of the mind, okay, or what we call mental processes and behavior. So we've been talking about the mind and mental processes in here. We talk about, for example, high roads of consciousness and low roads. When we extract meaning using our amygdala of emotional expressions, that's the study of mental processes. And then our behavior has been added on to that as ultimately the final definition, if you want, broad general definition of psychology is a scientific study of the mind and behavior. In this regard and in this capacity, by the way, you'll find this definition, it's pretty straightforward. You'll also need to know that we're going to look at just a couple of key themes next. What is today? Today's Wednesday? So next time, next class session, we're going to look at some other key themes, but let me give you real quickly two. First of all, this is a scientifically based discipline. It's empirically based, which means that when someone wants to study or explore, the guy, for example, that had affective blind sight, we have to kind of do some tests and some studies and use our observation and an empirical approach. And so that theme is going to show up in this class a lot. Psychology is empirically based. We base it upon observation. I don't just go out and say, oh, I think humans do this or that. Based upon what I think or know, it's more about my observations using this approach. Documenting it using an empirical approach. And that theme is going to show up a lot. We're going to talk about a lot of experiments. And by the way, some of you, just like almost all of you, missed the one on subliminal. Science and experiments have shown nothing happens when I give your brain subliminal messages of any value that but we didn't know that until we did the science. And we did some cool science on this, and that's why I can tell you pretty definitively that subliminal messages don't change a person's buying habits. Question?
What's subliminal?
And subliminal means, I'll talk about that too, it means below awareness. Yeah. And then a last theme as we start to end here is psychology believes that behavior is multi-determined. That's key there. It's hard to give a single answer, in other words, to a cause of behavior. We call this multifactorial causation of behavior. Humans are complex. Your behaviors are complex. If you come up to me and you want to know the answer to a question, why did my roommate do this, or why did my roommate quit school, or why did my old friend, become addicted to a drug, or why did this person, why are they so mean? And the answer is going to be there's a lot of reasons, a lot of factors, and there's no one simple explanation for human behavior. It's very complex. We can kind of tease out some of these, and that's called a multifactorial causation of behavior.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.